All right, folks, this is Disability Activism SF, and at the time of this recording, we have a new mayor of San Francisco, Levi Strauss, Trust Fund Baby, Laurie, Daniel Laurie. Always a good sign when you have a politician that has a platform with a bunch of their promises, and as soon as they win election, they remove that platform and all those promises from public view. Such is the case of DanielLaurie.com. He has removed everything that he promised on his campaign with a stupid thank you letter, which has no real meat to it as far as what he's going to do for us, except these bullet points that are super vague. Fortunately, we have something called the Wayback Machine, which is by the Internet Archive. By the way, you should totally donate to them. That's what makes this possible. This makes archives of internet websites that you can save on this archive.org. And so, fortunately, some people have done that. I went through the history here so I could actually see what Daniel Laurie is all about now that he's going to be our new mayor. I was pretty interested to see that he was talking about homelessness, but not super excited about what he's saying. He's talking about that we have nearly 8,000 people experiencing homelessness in our city. And then he said he's not going to go after court-ordered injunctions, which attack people for being homeless, make it a criminal thing when it's not their fault. He also says that he's going to require RVs to park in designated areas, but of course doesn't say how he's going to do that when there's 14,000 parking spaces that are going to be removed from San Francisco, and there already isn't enough parking for RVs. And by the way, if you live in San Francisco, there are not that many RVs, and it's really a solvable problem if politicians actually gave it some care or concern instead of just trying to outlaw it and ticket people that are already poor, that are already homeless. In addition, he says he's going to make some shelter beds and increase the shelter capacity, which would be nice, but he doesn't really offer any tangible explanation of how he's going to do that. And he's talking about building tiny home villages, which again is nice, but he's not talking about who's going to run these communities, who's going to run these shelters, and are they going to be draconian police state kind of prisons, which many of them are now, or are they going to be humane places that people want to sleep at? If you talk to folks that are homeless, some people choose to sleep on the streets because the shelters are so horrific that there's fights that break out in them, there's people that are violent in them, and there's staff that abuse, hurt, are racist towards people that go to those shelters. I've seen it myself. Daniel Laurie's not talking about that. No, he's talking about housing. Okay, this is nice. He wants to build 82,000 new units by the year 2031. So he's really appealing to his YIMBY base. There's a movement called YIMBY here in San Francisco, which means yes in my backyard. And these are people that do not want to, and this platform does not want to confront the massive amount of vacant units, 10,000 plus vacant units that landlords are not renting, property owners are not renting in San Francisco. They have very little incentive to rent those units because of the increasing property value here. And so when you're talking about building units here, he's not talking about supporting communities that have been affected by gentrification, like the disabled community, like immigrant communities, like our Asian American community, or our LGBTQ plus community. People that have been kicked out in droves for high value, high market, tech bro penthouses that are being built all over this city. Instead, he's complaining about the slowing construction of 70,000 units that have planning and, look at this, neighborhood approval. And so he's complaining about the amount of time it takes to issue a building permit. Well, why is that? Why does it take 605 days to issue a building permit? Not that I believe that that's true, but let's just say that it is for argument's sake. It's because they're trying to find out, is this a historic landmark? Is this building going to be up to code? Do the plans actually make high rises in communities that would block sunlight from people? Are you destroying urban wildlife when you're building these things? You know, are you actually including affordable housing and low income units? And by the way, low income should be based on a person's income, not area median income, which is in the $100,000 right now, but based on somebody's actual real income and a percentage of that, like 30% of your base income is a way to do actual affordable housing. And, he talks about permits and simplifying the planning code. But again, nothing here about gentrification, nothing here about the mass displacement of San Franciscans, which is literally what's causing the homeless epidemic in this city. Just more building of units, most of which none of the homeless would be able to live in anyway. So exacerbating the problem. And then he's going to talk about ethics here. And I think it's always interesting when a politician talks about ethics. It's good for a couple laughs. Ethics and transparency. Fully fund the San Francisco Ethics Commission. That's pretty interesting because the Ethics Commission actually holds the mayor accountable for ethics violations. And I somehow doubt that's going to be one of his goals. He talks about money laundering and ballot measure committees and all this kind of stuff. And he talks about the City Hall insiders have created a culture of lawlessness. This fear-mongering is very popular right now. Be it open-air drug markets. Well, of course, he's not talking about the closed-air drug markets. So if you want to sell and snort a bunch of cocaine in your tech bro penthouse high-rise on Embarcadero, Daniel Laurie is very cool with that. Organized retail theft and reckless driving. Notice here, he's not talking about the massive amount of displacement from illegal evictions from landlords. He's not talking about the arson cases from landlords, the backlog of arson cases that are displacing residents, right? He's not talking about the racially motivated police violence against people in our community, right? He's not talking about any of that. So when he's creating this idea of a culture of lawlessness, he's being very specific about what he determines to be lawless, and including reckless driving. Now, that's, of course, a nod to Waymo and corporate robot car manufacturers to demonize the general public's way of driving, to, of course, create a more of a overbearing situation with enforcement. And we go over here. He talks about the mental health and drug crisis. He's talking about overdoses, right? Keeping drug dealers out of the Tenderloin. What is a drug dealer in the Tenderloin? Well, we all know that is code for a black person outside in the Tenderloin. That's what that's code for. This mayor, as mayors in the past, have wanted to gentrify the Tenderloin. It's close to City Hall. It's very expensive real estate. They want to build condos there and make it cleaner, whiter, and brighter with more tech bros that can move in and homogenize our communities into making it look more like Palo Alto every single day. And so when he's talking about drug dealers in the Tenderloin, yes, he's talking about people of color in the Tenderloin. And he's proposing that the sheriff will monitor these individuals with geolocation technology. It's not clear if he's talking about people on parole or just any person that is quote unquote deemed a drug dealer in the Tenderloin, whatever that means. So he's talking about using AI and geolocation. I mean, let's be real. When he's talking about geolocation technology, he's probably going to be also employing AI and machine learning to surveil, track, harass, imprison people of color that are quote unquote deemed a drug dealer. And he also says here, using technology and enforceable consequences. So again, just more punitive, racist, police state kind of mindset, really. And of course, when he's doing all this police state stuff, well, he's got to, of course, suck up to the police department as well. And he's doing more of that here. He's offering rent subsidies to police to live in the communities where they work. And the base salary of a police officer in San Francisco is 6 figures. They make a good salary. Why isn't he offering rent subsidies to the disabled, to immigrants, to LGBTQ+, to people that are actually being displaced and made homeless? How many people that are homeless on the streets of San Francisco are former police officers? I doubt it's many. I doubt it's even 5. How many are veterans? How many are disabled? Thousands, literally. So this is a real slap in the face to us. And there you go. I'm not going to go through all the details. I encourage you to use the Wayback Machine so you can read up yourself what his platform is that he removed from his website, so we can try to hold this guy accountable. Is he a total douchebag that's going to run our city into the ground? Well, I don't know for sure. We'll have to wait and see. But my hopes are not super high, and having someone who is a trust fund baby corporate guy who spent millions of dollars on his own campaign and then talks about funding the Ethics Commission, I think we're in for a bumpy ride. Hopefully this video is useful to you. Check out the description where I will leave links so you can look into this yourself. Democracy for the win. This is Disability Activism SF. Thanks for stopping by.